Welcome to Keep Trucking Personal, where we invite you to explore the heart and soul of our company, Kivi Brothers Trucking. Through engaging storytelling, insightful market updates, and vibrant energy, our podcast reflects our culture, values, and achievements. Whether you're a team member or industry enthusiast, join us to build connections, foster growth, and inspire excellence. Discover why we're more than just a company. We're a community, a catalyst for positive change, and a home for those aspiring to be part of something extraordinary. The pre-trip is complete and engines ready. We're set to hit the road on the Keep Trucking Personal podcast. Let's go.
Welcome to Keep Trucking Personal. My name is Tyler Kivi, and I'm your host. I'm sitting with Derek Kivi, who's a common guest of this podcast, if not a co-host, you could say. And it's exciting to get this podcast going again and again with people like Derek on here, because it really helps cement in our story of what we want trucking to be and where we want it to head. Because I think sometimes we've lost sight of what Keep Trucking Personal means as an industry and what it means to be a real truck driver. Because I think that is one of the purposes of this podcast, is to help navigate what the transportation industry is and help build strong truck drivers. So Derek, welcome back.
Thank you. Like you said, it's getting to the point where it seems like almost a co-host more than a guest, but always excited and enjoy being on these because there's so much information for us to share with everybody. A lot of times we don't get to talk about this stuff, or when you do, it's with one driver and then it turns into a lot different story by the time it gets to everybody. So
to that point, exactly. Trucking moves quick and it's a fast-paced environment. And like point in case, it's Saturday and we're recording this. Typically we try to do this during the week when we're in our normal environment, but the week it doesn't take much and it can get away from you real fast. And trucking is 7 days a week. It never stops. And so, like I said, point in case, we're here trying to carve out some time to make sure that we give attention to this, because weeks can get away from you real quick in trucking. And if you don't focus on it, things change real quick. And that's one of the topics I wanted to get into today, was leadership and culture in trucking. But before we get there, I want to talk a little bit about our SAFE incentive again, and the safety that we are focusing on as a company and what it means to us. And so the SAFE incentive, which is safety, it's an acronym: safety, achievement, fuel, and efficiency. Those are the fundamentals of this program. And we've been running it now for 9 periods. And a period is a 4-week period. So every 4 weeks it resets. And the driver has a new opportunity to earn that SAFE incentive by hitting a mileage threshold or an MPG threshold, all while maintaining a safety score. And so I said the word safe a lot throughout that. But what does the safety program mean to you, Derek? Where are we headed, and what does safety mean?
Obviously, safety being a priority, because with today's world, I guess you could say, there's so many things that can happen with an unsafe organization, lawsuits, the nuclear verdicts, all that stuff. It's come to haunt trucking companies, especially ownership and management, when you have people out there that are, I guess you could say, running rogue at times, that potentially that what if, or when that accident happens, if you don't have your ducks in a row and are being as safe as you can, it could potentially shut you down. So it's not only just that one person being irresponsible, it makes everybody at that organization lose their job. So safety over the last few years has really taken precedence, and we've really just hyper-focused on it. And that's all we've been preaching. And obviously with switching to the motive program, been focusing on, so we can become more safer, have less accidents, have a lot of them. Because what a lot of people don't understand is, obviously it's no different than your personal cars. You have a deductible. All these small little fender bender things that it was just a small bump, scrape, whatever it was. Nowadays, with the cost of things, it's $10,000 at minimum, typically per small occasion, where I just barely touched their bumper or this happened, and it was because the driver was being negligent or not being safe and aware of their surroundings. As those happen, these carriers are having to pay that out of pocket on top of just operating when you're in a thin margin industry to begin with, adding all these little scrapes and cuts to go along with it, pretty soon there's nothing left to invest back into the business.
Well, let's unpack that a little bit more, because I think that's an interesting spot to talk about being safe, but the impact of a little, not a fender bender is serious. So I shouldn't even say any, but like even a truck stop, let's just say a simple truck stop. You back in and you bust somebody's hood up, or you barely scrape their door, right? Like, I know when we get these submissions, I know we're not the only company. They come in very lighthearted, right? I barely scraped this truck. I barely touched him on the sleeper. I barely hit his hood mirror. I barely tapped his bumper, and things downplayed so much more. So I guess that's a good opportunity for you, like you said, to open up those little cuts and scrapes. I guess I don't have the average number, but like you said, 10,000 is a pretty realistic number for every single thing that happens. By the time you get an adjuster, you get it in, nothing is cheap on these trucks. Everything has to be planned, and it's $10,000 like that. So that little bitty bump, that little bitty scrape, although minor in nature, nobody was hurt, and you both drove away, is still a very expensive.
Yeah, the truck stop ones are actually the most expensive because trucks are so costly to repair. 9 times out of 10, a truck stop one, 10,000 is probably on the light side. We had the one truck that was parked in a truck stop over the weekend. Driver was at home. He come in to go to work, and both sides of his truck had trailers that ran down him. Wasn't that one like $30,000 if I remember correctly?
Yeah, so that was our truck.
There. And it was our truck. We just come there, and the mirrors are ripped off on both sides of the truck, and the truck's completely annihilated. Thankfully, we had our motive system and the cameras and could go back and watch the camera. Or no, did the driver have some cameras at that time? I don't remember. But either way, there was cameras on the truck, and we were able to get the footage of who did it, or that would have been our cost. We weren't even doing anything. It was parked.
I think that leads, again, it's even deeper, right? So that situation is a unique situation. So as any driver, put yourself in that seat. You're at home, and you come back in your truck, both mirrors and scraped up on each side of the truck. Where do you start on that one? Do you start to say, should I have picked a better truck stop? Should I have picked a better parking spot? Should I have found one that's front and center, that's not tucked in the middle way back? Like, that's, for me, like you said, that was another company. They had insurance. They're going to take care of it. It's embarrassing, right, to have a truck with no mirrors. We had to have it towed out of there and everything. But the nature of the beast is, when you look at Keep Trucking Personal on the highest of level of all levels, it's that attention to detail, paying attention to where you're putting your truck. What are you leaving yourself vulnerable for? Because a lot of times when you roll it backwards and you unravel what happened and how you got there, there's usually a decision or two that could have been made differently that would have set you up for success. We talk about it all the time, whether it's being prepared for tarping or knowing how to do your pre-trips properly before you go into a scale. All of that preparation leads to a different outcome than that decision. So in that scenario, do you think that there could have been a different setup, or do you think it was just luck of the draw, and that was just how it was going to play out the whole way?
From what I recall, I think the truck was parked just in a center parking spot. So yeah, but the hard part is when you get there, if there's no corner spots or places out of the, stay there for a day until you can find what you feel as a safe parking spot. Or do you park the truck and go home and do your home time? So it's,
I guess, to put it in a different perspective, if you have a Lamborghini and you're on home time, are you just going to park that in the center of Walmart's parking lot and go home? Somebody else can pick you up?
Yeah,
these trucks are comparable. Like, it's sometimes easy to treat them as just the simple tool. Like, they're not valuable. They're just my job. Like, I'm not worried. But when you look at the nature of how expensive they are, yes, put in a center spot. Maybe that driver got there at midnight. Tough deal, right? He had nothing he could do to get parked. He's got home. He's got family and wife and kids. So we get it. I understand what that would feel like. It's just the fact of, when does it, in this industry, look at all those custom trucks that go down the road. Most of the time, those trucks stay that way. They're not usually running around with mirrors ripped off each side. And
typically those guys are trying to do everything and anything in their control, or they head into a parking spot. So they have to back out when they leave just for that purpose, so they don't get backed into. But after talking about all this, backing into things, the next thing that I think about, which we've been fairly fortunate, usually it's us getting hit, not our guys backing into other trucks backing in. Knock on wood. Thanks to everybody for doing a great job in that respect. But it's so important. If you're cutting it hard and backing into something, but you can't see, don't just keep backing up. Stop and get out. Who cares if people are honking at you? I'd rather be the guy that doesn't have to call the police and have police there and filling out a police report and waking somebody else up in their truck when their truck rocks when you hit them, versus getting out and looking. And that's the number one issue is I think guys just, it looks pretty good on this side. Yeah, I should be good. But if you can't see, get out and look and just verify before you continue to roll on, because that simple decision of getting out and looking, like you say, it could be $10,000, $20,000 that's out the door because you simply didn't get out and look. With today's technology, I would think at some point down the road here, there'll be some sort of a detection system on the back of trailers. So when you have that blind spot, it's going to alert you and say, hey, you're going to back into something. But that'd be pretty cool. Maybe we'll invent that and then we can retire.
That would be nice. It would save everyone a lot of headache. But yeah, so that's a good example of how trucking it's a tough industry. And when we say keep trucking personal and also professional and safe, it is a profession that is a high standard. It's not, you literally, I think that's some of the spots where people get misled is they don't treat it as high as a profession and as high as a standard that it deserves. That comes with those decisions of where am I going to park? Oh, I'm on home time. Am I going to have a good spot to put the truck? Do I need to go back the next day and fix it? Do I need to plan ahead? This industry, people steal freight off your trailer. They'll steal your tarps. We've been there. We've done that. We've had trailers taken. Like, if you make a decision and you don't think it through, and if you're just simplify, put it as a Corvette or a Lamborghini parked in that parking lot unattended, it's going to get people's attention. And those little decisions all add up to the success of the driver, the success of the company, that individual load. Did you get your mirrors ripped off and now we're having to rent you a truck because you don't have a truck to rent? You know what I mean? Like it can add up and it can make a lucrative industry real tough, real fast. That's a good example. I think those are really interesting spots to unpack. And regarding the SAFE incentive, where, like I said, we're 9 periods in, the things that I'm taking away, because once we hit our 13th period, that's a full calendar year, we're going to recalibrate and also look at things a little bit. What worked, what didn't work, what do we need to tweak? And some of the adjustments that I see already as a necessity is like a seasonality, adjusting for seasonality. Like winter is tough to knock down as many miles. You have to be more cautious and precautious of what you're doing and where you're headed versus the summer when you have long, hot, dry days. So looking at things and adjusting for the seasonality of winter, snow, holidays. So I'm excited to do that because we'll have the data now to benchmark against. So that was one of the things that we'll need to build through. Another one, which is huge, is the unsafe driving. I think as a professional driver, you can't afford not having this system in your truck. You get caught with a cell phone in your hand, speeding over 15 miles an hour, say you're coming into a town. Like all of these things are disqualifying events for your future job. If you end up having to go somewhere else or you change because you need to be home more often with your family or soon to be wife, any of those life changes. And I think sometimes as professional drivers, we forget that it's a long game here. It's not just deliver this load and you're done. What do you think about being safe in future and as a driver, how that maintaining your professional record per se, how important that is?
It's extremely important. I think more often than not, people don't look at it that way, which I don't know why. I know there's a lot of people in this industry that have changed their thought process of it, because back in the day, it didn't really mean nothing. I'll go to the next one. Life goes on. Now it follows and haunts them. So that you can't just run away from it. So you are a professional truck driver. And if you do these things, such as being negligent, not paying attention to speed, and get popped with one of these tickets, it's on your record and it's going to haunt you. And let's face it, more and more of the ma and pa companies that normally would say, yeah, we're not worried about that. Come on board. We're good. They're going away. It's unfortunate, but one by one, as these organizations come to the point of, okay, I'm ready to retire, my son or daughter doesn't want to take it over anymore because they don't want to take on the burden of the cost of what it would be to versus me selling this outright to a larger corporation, just because of the sheer fact of how hard it is to succeed in this industry. And even when we took over, when they were saying the proven facts of second generation, third generation, usually it fails and never makes it any further. And 9 times out of 10, if you're selling it to family, you're doing some sort of a leveraged buyout to where you're still tied to it anyway, where usually these people say, I want to be done. I want to be able to just go enjoy what's left of my life and retire and not have to think every night, did we have a big accident? And now I potentially could lose my retirement. So what's happening more and more is people are selling out, and it's turning into a lot of your bigger corporations. No matter which way we look at it or think about it. And I know a lot of drivers really hate that and don't want to see that, but it's what's happening. It's reality. So without taking it serious and really focusing on that and saying, yeah, when I'm at home and I'm on my home time, I'm not going to drive like a maniac. I'm not going to drink and drive. All them different things all factor into what your professional life is. And it's unfortunate. Driving is your professional career, and it affects so much on your personal life, where other people that have jobs, driving doesn't matter if you get a speeding ticket or if you get this, but it's come to reality, and you have to take it serious. And it's not just, I'll just go do whatever else. At the end of the day, it's a good career. You can make a good earning, you can make good wages, but you also have to remember what you're doing in that truck and what you're doing on your off time all reflects your professional career. It's not just when I'm in the truck, I focus on that. And when I'm in my car, I'll do whatever I want. You don't have 2 separate licenses. Here's your personal, here's your commercial license. It's all under one umbrella. You got to take it seriously and respect it and honor it and do your vigilance to be that citizen that is out there and cares and is paying attention to the road. Because even if you're in your personal car and you do some of these stupid mistakes, there's so much traffic and so many more people and population in all the areas that one time that something could happen. And if you end up killing somebody or heaven forbid, have a bad accident, you could end up in prison.
Yeah. That's the reality of it for sure. It's a tough industry. It's a good industry. It's lucrative. It pays you back in dividends, especially if you work hard. But you have to respect what it takes to get that license and what it puts into it. And I'm excited to talk about when that's the reality, right? We just unpacked a couple of things that are the reality. That's current day, current place. This isn't what it used to be. That's right now. You scratch somebody in a truck stop, it's $10,000, cut and dry. And it's not the shake of a hand anymore. Oh, there's already dents on this. Nope, you're buying something new. But moving into what we've done now, why we're talking about this and why I feel like we can talk openly about this is where we're headed. And talk is cheap. It seems easy to always talk about safety. I feel guilty of that even sometimes, where you talk about it so much, but you're like, are we living at 100%? But then you look at what Motive has helped us do. And so in this point in case, the technology helped everyone, and it helped everyone. So from our CSA score, from the unsafe driving category, there's 7 basic scores. Unsafe driving is one of them. And that's one of the most influential ones for insurance and DOT and a lot of things that they look at. But unsafe driving holds your speeding, your unsafe lane changes. If you drive by a scale, you blow a stop sign, a stoplight, you're in the left lane when you're supposed to be in the right 2 lanes. All of those things go into that bucket. Motive has helped us tremendously, and we've dropped down into what I'm going to say world-class territory. And that's something to celebrate. If you're a driver here and you're paying attention to your following distance, you're paying attention to your speed, you're doing the right things. You're not just doing it for that score, you're doing it for yourself, because the safe incentive will pay you for that. So that's the plus. But you're doing it to help build a team. We're a coalition of drivers together at this company. And if everybody puts their best effort in every day, every mile, we see the results that we're starting to see. And it's exciting, right? Could I fathom this a year and a half ago before we started Motive? No. Like you didn't know how you could wrap your arms around it. Everybody out there is a free independent. They're a free spirit when they're by themselves out driving, right? That's one of the exciting things of trucking is you get to be out there, you get to be free, and you get to travel the open road or sometimes travel the road less traveled and get to see unique things. But now we have something in there that helps protect you and helps protect your future, but you're also working towards a world-class standard at this company. So it's exciting to be building that. And that's our mission for every one of those CSA buckets. Bring it into a world-class territory and let us be the standard, not what standard are we chasing. We know there's a lot of work to be had. It's why we talk about and why we remind all the time about pre-trips. So unsafe driving, we're headed where we want. We're never going to stop our focus there. We're never going to let off the throttle. We're not going to double tap that and pull it back. No, we're staying pedal to the metal. But like the pre-trip and the maintenance bucket, as I said, there's 7 of them. That's another one we're focusing on. We want to make sure you're pulling into that scale, making sure that those little things are not there's not something there for low-hanging fruit for them to pick on. And tires are the easiest one for them to look at. So if you haven't every day checked your tires, like a clean walk around and understand that, hey, this tire is inflated. It doesn't have any cups or low spots or doesn't have any flat spots, because in the winter that happens. Somebody's going to have their brakes freeze up, get ice or snow in them and drag them. It's just going to happen. Nothing you can do. But make sure you're not the driver that rolls into a scale with those tires flat spotted and they go, lay up. Here it is. This is what we've been waiting for, and you're here.
And there's, with that, the flat spot stuff, obviously, as we get new equipment, the trucks are all equipped with disc brakes. That stops a lot of that. A lot of the trailers, that the newer ones that we've gotten, obviously there's still a lot of old ones that are drum brakes, but a lot of the new ones are disc brakes, which again, that helps stop from having that frozen axle or frozen wheel and skidding the tires. But we also put the skid sticks, if I remember correctly. I know they're called skid something, but we put them yellow skid markers in each wheel, and we do that for a reason. And I just want to notify any of the drivers that we have found some when they stick them back inside the wheel because they think it doesn't look cool or whatever it may be, it wrecks them. And I don't recall exactly the total amount, but I know we've spent thousands of dollars on those skid sticks to help visually show the drivers when they go to move, you can see if your wheels are turning or not. And if you don't keep skidding it, because all it's doing is flat spotting the tires, you need to stop. Whether you don't know how to address the situation to help it, call fleet so you can be coached, or they can get a service truck out there if need be. But typically, as long as you have a mid-sized hammer and you can go out there, and I always tried to get at least some sort of bar of some nature to reach in to put onto those brake shoes and pound them out in a way you can go without issue. Where if you drag it halfway out of the parking lot, yeah, it maybe finally breaks, but what you just did is you took all the tread and you flat spotted the tire, and now you have an out of service tire. So what did you gain yourself versus taking that time to go out there and break them brakes free? Now, there are, like I say, as far as safety goes, there is some, you need to make sure you got your truck brakes, some sort of brakes on, or your truck, once that you break it free, will roll away. And that's why I say, if you're not familiar with it, being a driver, reach out to your fleet department and they will help you and coach you through that.
It's funny because those sticks remind me so much of like Canadian. When I was driving back in the day, I remember seeing Canadian trucks come down with those on there, and you're always like, for a little bit, when I didn't know, it makes sense, right? It's hard not to know, but I was like,
I love them. When I'm moving around the yard, or if I'm running to a customer's facility, having them things, and when I don't see them, which I did have one trailer that just recently, it came out of our shop, and unfortunately the techs forgot to put them on it. And I instantly notified Michael and I said, hey, this trailer just got dropped out of the shop. I happened to be the one hooking up to it, and I noticed instantly because that's the first thing I looked for. And I was like, what the heck? There's no sticks on this. We almost have, I'd say we're probably close to 90% having the sticks on all our trailers, but there's still a few here and there that haven't got through the right shop to get them put on. Those things are a lifesaver. It makes it so much easier instead of having,
being a northern Minnesota carrier. Winter, we're in the thick of it right now. Winter, it's freezing rain, ice. all of those things. You park your truck for the day and it's blowing snow, and it jams that snow into between your brake shoes and the drum, or the drum freezes right to it. And you can't, and you go to leave at 2 a.m, right? We talk about that all the time. The early bird gets the worm. So you're trying to leave at 2, 3 a.m. Your backup lights maybe aren't lighting it up enough, but you're like, oh, it looks like it's rolling. And then you make it a quarter block or a quarter mile and they're flat spotted. Boom, you're done. So yeah, like you said, they're lifesavers. They're very beneficial, and when respected, they do the job and they do it well.
Yep.
So there's so many examples of the advancements we've made, and some of it's not even technology to those
advancements, but it's also investments.
Advancements.
It's there to help save money, but ultimately save time, because when you drag them duals, and some guys, if they don't ever see it, and you've had it where they drag them till it completely blows the tires, now you're on the side of the road. Now what would have took you 5 seconds to see in your mirror if that wheel is moving or not, and once you realized it wasn't, stop, address it properly, you ended up costing yourself
time and money,
hours of time, and now the company just spent $1,000 on tires, or more if it was a service call.
Yeah, we talk about it all the time in previous episodes as well. Nothing is too small. We're not helicopter parents here, but everything comes through when we talk about it. And whether that's somebody had drug their tires as we've talked, or backed into something, or whatever, it comes through when we talk about it. And we're always trying to say, how can we avoid this? What can we do to prepare? In point in case, the sticks motive 2 years ago was in the talks, and it's like, how do we get prepared to be the safest company? Because it will matter. It will be a big deal. It might not be your biggest bullseye right now as a driver. You might not say, hey, it's not priority for me. I'm here to put on X amount of miles a day, and that's all I care about. I just want to earn my paycheck. It will matter. This industry is headed, I think it's headed into a spot that if shippers, however you want to label them, are going to pay attention to it, and brokers, doesn't matter. So if you're not paying attention to it, why would I load you? That's the simplest way to put it. So if a customer says that, why would I load you when I can't trust that your truck's safe to get on the road? Or as a broker, or many of the drivers nowadays have a vision to be their own independent driver, own their own truck. This is the fundamentals to get there. You need to be
just your DOT score as a carrier. Yeah. It's a lot of your mega shippers and big customers, which is freight that our drivers like hauling, they're looking at that. And if you've got a horrible safety score, then all of a sudden they say, you know what, we can't use you. You're too much of a risk and a liability for us. It's not just us preaching the cost and the savings there. It's, if you want to haul the freight you like to haul, you need to play by the rules. It's no longer a Wild West out there anymore. It's
I think that's a good example. Have you said for drivers that want to progress, they want to progress towards heavy haul. We hear it and see it, and we talk about it all the time. Some of it's, do you understand the nature of what it is, the work that comes with it? Sometimes it's chased just because it's the bigger and better, right? But people don't understand the work that comes with it. But we're also looking at your history, because that's a big deal. When you add weight and axles and height and width, if you're not paying attention to your trailer tires when you're pulling a flatbed and you only have 2 axles, and you're getting multiple violations throughout a year for maintenance or even a logbook hours of certain, like the little things matter. It's the little blocking and tackling. You want to go big and heavy haul, do the little things right. Communicate, pay attention to your truck, fill all your ELD with the proper stuff, and have safe following distance, because heavy loads need more time to stop. All of those things show up. And so if you have a close following, speeding, those type of things on your record, it starts to lead to, is it telling a story? Because that's how insurance approaches everything. Are you telling a story? And as a company, every renewal, we put together a synopsis of what happened in the previous 12 months and what we think is going to happen in the future. And that's putting together a story. Where we come from, the current state to where we're headed. And we're always painting that picture. And it's the same for a driver that wants to move from van to flatbed to step deck to oversized to multi-axle to limitless.
Yep.
Wanted to talk a little bit. We've talked about the safe run. And so before I move to leadership stuff, I want to talk to you about the safe incentive. To me, it's amazing. It tells such a story. When you look at production, which is miles driven, the safety score, which is your environment that you control as a driver, MPG, which is a part of an efficiency in this game. Fuel is one of the most expensive things that we spend as a company. And we want to pay that back to the driver, not into the fuel tanks. And so all of that boils up to a safe company, a safe driver, and earning more money. And that's why I'm excited that it continues to pay drivers hundreds of dollars every 4 weeks. It's got the highest potential of earning $900 in that 4-week rolling period. And it's very easy to qualify in the beginning with just some basic understanding of what needs to be accomplished and why. And all of that is a progression to build you into a better truck driver. We're very excited. Like I said, we're 9 periods in. Once we hit our 13th period, we're going to rejuvenate some of these metrics because we'll have a year's worth of data, and then we'll start to compare month against month and quarter against quarter and start to set some targets that are relative to the winter, the time of year, the holidays, and really make sure that we're understanding and listening to our drivers so that they get full benefit of what's to come from it, as well as maybe tweaking it and adding some more advancements into it to make it more of a large earning, to give them more earning opportunities. More to come on that. That's stuff that'll continue to evolve. But I want to now dive into leadership and culture. And I think you have a lot to talk about in a subtle way of what leadership and how to embody that and how it builds into your culture. And I think the easiest one for you, from my perspective, would be to lead by example, right? And then why don't you tell me a little bit about how you try to lead by example and by what you do and how you do it and what that means to you when you see somebody keep trucking personal. That's our mantra. That's what we try to live by, and how you feel about that.
Obviously, any of our drivers or employees around here that typically, if they get into the Duluth yard, know that I'm in everything here. I'm out in the yard helping move stuff to helping figure out a load so we can balance it out weight wise, from all the way down to something with the shop or what decision we're going to make there, but also out there with the people. And when you say lead by example, it's trying to just do things the right way, period. And what's not only safe, but makes sense, not half-assing it, if you will, which you see more often than not. If I see something and it's like, all right, no, let's finish this. Or we just got this trailer unloaded, let's shovel the snow off of it so it's ready for the next guy. Just little things like that it's been ingrained into me from day one, or getting it from our dads, grandpas, stuff like that. Leave it done the right way so the next time you need it, you can use it and you don't have to spend 3 hours fixing it or anything of that nature. Letting the shop know if you see something. I'm constantly telling fleet, if I'm out there moving a trailer or do something and I see it, I take pictures and I turn it in right away so it can get addressed and get fixed. I don't just turn my head and walk away from it. And all those little things is leading by example. And like I said, doing the right thing, making the right decisions, and just helping even from the office perspectives and decisions on what loads we're doing or where we're going, or if it's something that a driver is really upset and doesn't want to do, just saying, okay, guys, think about this. I know you're butting heads or we're not getting to get along, but if you were in that person's position, how would you feel about this? Or would you be mad and say, I'm just going to go home, or whatever the case may be? Just literally thinking it through, because sometimes I think the animosity and the anger takes over and it just continues to downward spiral instead of just thinking it out and saying, okay, let's thoroughly make a smart decision here for not only the driver, but for the company. Because sometimes somebody trying to prove somebody wrong, in the end, it costs the company. Yeah. In the end, it costs the company bottom dollars, but it costs a lot of times the driver.
Yeah. I think that's awesome. How
everybody
you
needs to play nice.
Where you put that you're painting the picture of lead by example is to leave it better than you found it. Leave the world in a better place than when you found it. And I think that's, as a truck driver, and I know every truck driver, if you heard this, or at any company or any position you're in, if somebody were to leave your situation better than how they found it, or leave picking up a preloaded trailer, like you said, that's a great example of leave it better than you found it. You can easily make sure the deck is clear, make sure the dunnage is put in the rack properly, make sure the winches are centered on the trailer so they're not dropped on top of the tires. Make sure if there is anything that's in question, you take the time and take pictures and send it into our fleet department so we can address it. We can document it, and then it's not a pin the tail on the donkey, like who had it last, who did this, why did this happen, being forthcoming and focusing on leave it in a better place than you found it. And that's such a simple approach, but yet profound and carries weight. And that's a good way. And like you said, you do lead that by example. Point in case with those sticks. Hey, I want to make sure that this is set up for our driver to win. People make mistakes.
Not to look dumb. It's not to look stupid. It's there to help you.
Yeah. And another one, like you had said, I think a cool way to look at this is there is two roles at this company. Of course, we have multiple facets in this, but there's two roles. You're either a driver or you're a driver support. Like, it's as simple as that. And I think sometimes, like you had said, animosity gets in the way of that in this industry. And you look, they're not listening to me. And that's because this is each way. This isn't just drivers towards office. This is office towards drivers. This is safety towards drivers towards safety. Fleet. Like, when you understand that we're all in this boat and we're rowing it the same way, like, we win together and we fall together. And I think when you look at football teams or any sports analogy, and if sports ain't your thing, there's many ways to look at it. But a lot of those teams put individual records aside and focus on the winning aspect of the team. And when they do that, everything prospers. And in trucking, it's no different. Everybody's rowing the boat in the same direction, and they're not so worried about individual accolades. They're looking at the big picture. How do I treat a customer better? How do I uphold a standard? How do I make sure my fellow drivers upholding that standard, his tarp looks good or it doesn't look good? Compliment him either way, right? Like, hey, great job tarping, or hey, that we want to know when our image is not upheld to a certain standard. Coming together as a team and helping build that culture, it's what we're all about, and that's what Keep Trucking Personal is. And
I think a lot of, one thing, not to interrupt, but I think a big thing from whether it's driver, office, staff, whichever side of the fence, is keeping our cool. As soon as somebody starts talking loud or screaming, if you can, I know it's hard, but whether it's the driver or even from the office side, getting frustrated and yelling at the person, if you can keep your cool, usually it'll calm down the situation, and that other person that might be getting mad is going to realize, okay, they're not screaming at me anymore. This is getting us nowhere, and it stops. Where if you start to escalate up with them, it just turns into a volcano and it erupts.
So I have a question. Have you ever been in a situation that you, not saying you personally, but as a group, hasn't been able to been solved? Have we ever been able to solve it? I think there's been some stumping situations, but we've always, as a company, came to a resolution with the situation.
It's not going to go away. You got to address it. You got to figure it out. It's not like Monday.
Nothing's too high that it can't be solved or can't come to an agreement. And so that's a great way. Keep your head cool, because no matter what the situation is, it's not going to go away, and it needs to be solved.
It makes it worse. And even when I say from the driver's standpoint, because now you're frustrated, you're angry, you're mad, you're yelling at somebody that you normally wouldn't yell at, you're going to get behind the wheel and you're going to start driving. What do you think happens when you're mad? I've seen people driving around the yard out here, they're mad and they're running around in second gear trying to floor the thing or whatever, put it into manual mode and revving super high. What are you gaining? You're basically going to break the piece of equipment that supplies food on your table. So who won here? It's just sometimes if you got to go step outside behind something and scream at the air or whatever, the trees, go do it. Blow the steam off, get yourself leveled out, and then come back and address. Because when you're in that situation, chances are you're going to hit something or you're going to back into something, and it just continues to escalate.
Yeah, snowball effect. Starts to roll downhill. Yeah. So do you have anything more? Like I said, you embody leading by example, and sometimes that's the hardest one to get recognition for, because it's in the dark. Leading by example doesn't mean you have a crowd of people in front of you and you're like, step one, step two. Leading by example means there might be nobody in the yard, nobody there, and you're doing it by yourself. It doesn't get the limelight that it deserves because you're not there trying to get a ceremony for it, but it's hard to do, it's hard to master, and it's hard to always try to leave things in a condition better than you found them.
And caring about everybody. No, that's the thing, and giving people their time when they need their time. Obviously, as people don't know where we are or what we're doing, but truth be told, I'm at work right now in the yard, and when we get done with this podcast, I'm going outside to load a truck with some LTLs driver is here waiting on me. I'm the only one here. Our normal yard guy is out fishing. Great. Give him some time. Give him some breathing room. Just me, I didn't have anything planned and said, you know what? I'll come in. I'll take care of it. We'll get this guy going, get everything taken care of. Those are simple things, but in the end, it goes a long way, and it builds character and it builds trust. And it also builds just a lot of respect amongst drivers to know that, okay, ownership is coming in to load me today. And I've got no problem with that, whether I own part of this operation or not. I just take pride in knowing that I came in, got that truck set up, and he's leaving here successful.
Yeah.
That alone, when you think of that, kind of takes it to a whole nother level from management perspective, or to care that much. And that's what we do. And like I said, anybody that's fluent with us or has been around for a while knows that I'm in and out of every piece of this company. I'm not just hiding in my office, sending commands down to my lower people to spread the word or to manage properly. I'm involved in everything. And it's not because I don't have people that can't do it. It's because I care and I want to be involved, so I can show our commitment to everybody, because that is, and it's not even just our non-driver staff or the driver staff, it's our customers. Our customers know I'm going to make dang sure we see through that this happens. It didn't just fall on the, oh crap, we screwed up and pick up from there. No, we're doing every single thing we can, because if whatever they sold doesn't make it to the end user, they no longer have customers, which means we no longer have customers or nothing to haul. So it goes so much further beyond just our organization. It's everybody as a whole.
Yeah. We're a liaison of whatever we're hauling. We're a representation of
correct
that customer and how we show up. And real quick since we talked about customers, real quick, I think that's a good point to touch on, keeping your cool. And once again, like I said earlier, we hear a lot, right? We know when somebody skids tires. We know when somebody backs into something. We also know when somebody has an upset time at a shipper, because it comes back to us. It's not that we're sitting here poking and prodding. It comes back. Everybody is so safety focused now, whether it's a harness or you just are disgruntled over whatever it may be, and you make some choice words to somebody in that forklift. They're not just saying, hey, cut him some slack, he's having a rough day. They're going to say, supervisor, this is what happened. And you know who they call? Whoever's in charge of that customer. And then whoever we hear from it. And we go, how did that happen? Like, to even say that? It'd be tough. So keep your cool, focus on taking a deep breath, vent out behind that dumpster if you have to, before you say anything that you're going to regret, because you can't take it back once you say it. So
correct. That's huge. I forgot about that. But like you say, when you're at a shipper, you start getting upset because that other person might be giving you some grief, whatever it is. Keep your cool. If anything, call in and let the customer service rep or your DM, whatever, know, so they can. But at the end of the day, fighting with that person is only going to get you kicked out of there.
You lose.
And it's bad for us. When they say we don't want this driver back because he was fighting with our personnel, now you just lost opportunity on a load that you can haul further in the future. So it's a big deal. Treat people the way you want to be treated, even if they're treating you wrong. 9 times out of 10, by the end of that interaction, they're going to realize that you're not escalating up with them, and they'll change their tune.
Yeah. Or they're testing you. Some people like to test to see how everybody responds and come out on the higher road. That's for sure. So that leads me to, right before we wrap this up, I wanted to talk about where the market's headed and what we're seeing, specifically on our flatbed side. And I think you have some good news to share from what we're seeing now that we're mid-February. How did you feel through January, beginning of February, on customer freight and volumes, and what's the feedback you're getting?
Starting out this year, it didn't just go gangbusters, but talking to customers, a lot of them said, obviously with the new administration taking office, that they've had a lot of positive feedback, starting to see more orders come in, things of that nature. But we didn't really see things completely increase, at least from in the Northland, what I call it, or up here in northern Minnesota, Wisconsin area, where a lot of our heavy customer concentration is. They started out saying, yeah, we're seeing more, we're quoting things, doing stuff of that nature. And now it seems middle of February, which is usually a pretty dormant time of the year for flatbed, not things going gangbusters or going crazy. And we've experienced an extreme uptick in outbound freight, which is something since I've been back heavier into the operations of our northern Minnesota customer concentration and outbound freight for going on a year now. I haven't seen that kind of influx and demand. Again, it's only been like started leading up to it, but it's only been a week going into 2 weeks, which so far it sounds like next week we're already getting pretty booked out for freight leaving out of this area. 2 weeks is okay, great. Really, things seem to be on the uppity up, but you get 3 weeks, 4 weeks, now we're in a trend, which tells me the economy is starting to rebound. And it's not all just one sector of this economy where we're seeing it. We're seeing it across the board, all the way from steel, housing. So it's extremely exciting to see this. We've had some of our old used trucks that we've been working to sell here for quite some time, and the market just shut right off. Nobody was buying anything. We started selling some of those trucks. We've even had some bites on some old flatbed trailers we've been working to sell for quite some time and starting to see action and traction there. Honestly, I'm very optimistic. Again, I'm no fortune teller or economist, but I truly think that our economy is starting to move in the right direction. I'm hearing from a lot of customers, various different ones. We've got orders now, even one booked through the year, which is something we ain't heard in a couple of years, or some of them already booked out well into summer. So I think we're headed in the right direction, which is awesome to see, because this industry can only take such a downturn for so long before it really decimates it. To see things start picking up the way they are is truly invigorating, and I'm very excited.
Yeah, you can't beat that. I think to touch, you're very close on the, like you said, the Minnesota, North, really all the customers, but you really get to see it firsthand. Like once there's talk is cheap, but once it shows up on your trailer, then it's a real deal. But on the heavy haul side, we're very optimistic too. I've talked to some construction companies that already have a backlog of work, just like you said. Now, I don't know exactly how that differs from the previous 2-3 years, but they're very excited about what's already on the books. And I know in our oil industry specifically, those people that surround that are very eager for spring. They need the ground to thaw so they can go to work.
Yeah,
so we're kind of like city
still because of the ground being frozen, but once it thaws, I think it's going to be.
Yeah, so I'm excited. Our heavy haul division is our premier division. We pride ourselves there. I'm excited to be able to grow that spot of the company. I know that's been one of our goals, and this is the year that we feel really not growth by 10x type growth, but to get a small, subtle growth and get to a spot where we want to really show that we're a premier heavy haul carrier in the industry, as well as be able to meet all the needs that are going to come this summer. Mm-hmm. So we're excited there. We've already done some preparations from moving drivers around, training them, drivers that maybe weren't comfortable with the certain setups or the bigger setups, or getting them their opportunity now, why it's a little bit slower, because it is a completely different change when it comes from our winter work, quote unquote, to our summer work. It's like night and day.
Demanding.
It's construction industry has no forgiveness. Like this machine broke.
7 days a week, 24 hours a day.
This job just shut down for whatever reason. We are almost like an emergency response team. Like we get a call, boom, we're going after it. We're going to get it fixed. And we're there to support that customer. And that's how we bolt on, I feel like, to our customers, is not just as a shipping partner. We're actually like a segment of their business. Like their business relies on us to make sure that their business is successful to that level. It's deep. And so excited to really mature those relationships again this year and see what the economy has, and a lot of light at the end of the tunnel. Hopefully we can see this rebound and we can put the last several years behind us and say, what a crazy ride, but we're here now.
It certainly seems to be pointing that direction. And I know a lot of times in our world, the way the economy and things roll down. I was meeting with some of our lenders yesterday and just going over things and catching up. And part of what I told them, as I said, a lot of times by the time you already hear it on the news or in a newspaper article or even a podcast or whatever it is, we already know what's happening. We're that far involved into what this economy is that on the flatbed side, we already know what's either slowing down, picking up well before it starts to, the reports start to show, okay, numbers are up, domestic sales are doing this or that. We've already felt it and know. So it's one very cool piece of being in the industry we are and what we do and working with these customers is we can already feel where our economy's going before it's even really reported out.
Yep. Yeah. And that's like being on the inside. Talk to the customers. We're close to our customers. We can hear what they hear and what they hear. But when they start to pre-order stuff that, like you said, hasn't really hit the economy, but they're saying, hey, we're going to start to bump up our production or focus on this, or we're shifting our product line to this because it's a hot new product. Like we're able to hear those insights and start to make sure that we shift internally too, because there is demand and it pulls and pushes different parts of the country and different regions. So we have to be able to respond swiftly so we don't A, drop the ball, and B, we want to capitalize on it. So yeah, Very exciting. I'm excited for the future. We have a lot to continue to talk about, but this is a great episode of unpacking a little bit about what safety and how impactful it is and the costs that it has and leadership and leading by example and leaving this world better than you found it. It's easy to say, hard to do. Remember that. I think that's the easiest. And then going into the optimism that we're carrying, not only because we're hearing it from our customers and we're seeing it on our trailers, but also some of our old used equipment that we've held on to for a year or greater because the market wasn't there. The market didn't support us getting rid of it. Now it's starting to change. And all this comes together and builds that strong market. So all those, if those don't tell you indicators, I don't know what will, but so we're excited for the summer. Excited that you were able to join again, Derek. I know, like I said, it's Saturday and we got to squeeze time and carve it out whenever we can, but we'll make sure to get it done. Appreciate you being here.
Thank you.
Thanks for tuning in to Keep Trucking Personal. Until next time, keep trucking.
Thank you for joining us on this episode of Keep Trucking Personal. We appreciate you taking the time to explore the heart and soul of Kivi Brothers Trucking with us. Don't forget to subscribe and leave a review to let us know your thoughts. Tune in next time as we continue our journey together, diving deeper into what makes us a community, a catalyst for positive change, and a home for those who aspire to be part of something truly extraordinary. Until then, keep trucking, and we'll catch you on the next episode.